Was Chastain too aggressive too early, particularly when you consider he was dealing with Brennan Poole?
Yeah, I wasn't in the car, but looking at the camera, definitely looked like he gave him a little bump and caused that to spiral. But I did retweet Matt Weaver, who I assume is actually there, who got from Ross Chastain saying, "I did not mean to do that." I don't know how you put those together, but take that as you will. Brennan Poole said to Fox or somebody that he needed a butt whooping after that. But
Yeah, I believe that was a Fox broadcast.
yeah, that's all I've got from that. I think if it may have been an intentional move, but we've seen this a lot from Ross Chastain. That's just that's become his character. He is hard nosed, and he can get away with things like that too because he can just he's got a great personality. He can just kind of move around it and get victories. But they on the Fox broadcast they were also comparing him to the likes of Jimmy Spencer. So you think of Mr. Excitement back in the day. They were blaming him for things on the track, and they said like he was already like in the garage, or he'd already been out in the garage for 10 laps, and they were still blaming Jimmy Spencer for something. So maybe Ross Chastain's our next Mr. Excitement, and he's returning.
Well, here's another comparison from our friend Seth Eves. Chastain needs to be smarter in certain situations, but I'm tired of people acting like he's the only one that's ever drove aggressively in his career. A certain driver of a black number 3 would look for it.
Yes, he making contact with the 15 of Poole, who hit Larson as well. Yeah, I think he was a bit too overzealous into turn 1 because it wasn't needed, and it was clearly always going to happen because it was a gap that was always going to decrease. I'm surprised he didn't back out of it, and I think a penalty would have been just there as well because it ended Poole's day and destroyed Kyle Larson's.
Yeah, I'll just say from my perspective, I think a lot of people got on Ross Chastain after Talladega, and I honestly defended him a little bit. I said, maybe you could argue Gragson was blocking a little bit as well. It's also an overtime restart, and that's a track where you're known for bump drafting. You're known for giving a little bit of contact to the car in front of you, and maybe you could argue, they had just restarted the race, so maybe he should have waited a little bit to get that aggressive with Gragson. But in this instance here, I think way too early, and just unnecessary. With no disrespect to Brennan Poole or the number 15 team or Rick Ware, that's not a car that you want to tear up because that's a team on a shoestring, limited budget compared to the big teams of this series. And I know Ross again was very apologetic, but he's been very apologetic before, and yet here we are continuing to talk about this again. So
Fox was also very ruthless about Ross Chastain. They had a graphic ready to go, like who else but Ross, or whatever they said. I mean, they were prepared for him to do something, obviously this weekend.
And I love how towards the end of the race, Larson, as I said, was 41 laps down. He was in the battle, wasn't he? Because it was Truex and it was Truex in the way. And Truex got ahead, but then Chastain got blocked by Larson for 3 corners, and it was Larson deliberately holding him up. I thought that was brilliant revenge because he destroyed his race, so he stopped his chance of winning. I don't think Chastain would have got ahead because Truex was brilliant at defending, but it certainly cost him a shot and an overtake going in the last 3 laps.
And on that note, thank you, Josh, for bringing that up as well. Because anybody who knows me, I try to always be consistent. I always try to say I'm always against intentional wrecks. I don't care if somebody did it to you first or not. Never a fan of intentional wrecks, but this kind of retaliation, I think that's fair. You're out there on track, you're hitting minimum speed. He ended your day. I think it's fair to, disadvantage him a little bit when he's clearly still, his day wasn't ruined. He's still fighting for the win. Hold him up a little bit. That I don't have a problem with at all. And I think the Fox booth was saying the same thing. That was more than fair for Kyle Larson. And I will certainly take that over spinning Ross Chastain back out and taking your revenge that way. So I think that's the way to do it if you want to get a little bit of revenge on somebody